Good afternoon. It is 12 o'clock. At least it is on the East Coast and in Canada and some parts of the Caribbean and South America. Um, and no matter what time it is where you are, welcome to the Chicken Box. Yes, with two X's, a place where you can speak your truth. Powered by the 132-year-old as of next week. Afro American, some people know us as newspapers, but we're no longer just a newspaper. We are a media company, so we just go by Afro News. But no matter what you call us or why you're on this particular stream, we are so glad that you're here. I am Frances Tony Draper, publisher and CEO of the Afro. Our co-hosts usually are Impeccable and Jay, both of whom are traveling on today, but I am so excited. I am so excited on this multi-generational show to have Aria Brent joining us. Aria, this is not your first time on Chicken Box.
No,
You have
ma'am, it's
been with
not.
us a couple of times, but there may be some first-time viewers on Chicken Box. So give us your 30-second overview of who you are, and then I'm going to ask you to introduce our special guest for today.
Yes, ma'am, it will be my pleasure. So, hi, everybody. Good afternoon. As Dr. Draper said, this is not my first time on the box, but I am Aria Brent, which I am an Afro staff writer as well as the host of Afro Cooking Live. So, if you guys ever see anybody on there cooking in the kitchen with the apron on that says Afro News, it's me. But I'm super excited to be joining us today. With us today, we have a very special guest who's going to come and talk to us today about assisted living. So, please, everybody, about say virtually give us a round of applause for Miss Tiarra.
All right, I believe there she is.
Hi, hey everyone.
Hey, Tiara, we're so glad to have you. Ari, you want to say a little bit more about Tiara, and then she can add whatever else she'd like to add.
Yes, so Tiara has a very extensive background and a lot of experience working in assisted living homes and in hospitality, making sure that our loved ones, whether they be in an assisted living home because of old age and or because of maybe some health transitions are having, making sure that they're good and comfortable. So today we're going to be talking a lot about what that looks like. Kind of dismissing some of those fears or the stigmas that are put around the idea of putting people in homes, especially in the Black community. You know how Big Mama and them get that. You're not gonna put me in a home. And she's going to tell us exactly why it's okay to put them in a home.
All right, so that's great. So if you're watching us, come on, tell your friends. Listen, all of us will have to face this choice at one time, either for ourselves or for a loved one. And everybody wants to do what? Stay in their own homes, but there are assisted living homes, and so on this multi-generational, intergenerational show, I'm the boomer on the show, so I'm probably, I guess, more in tune to maybe what it might look like for myself, but also I've what it looked like for my loved ones who are older than I am. Aria, I know your great grandmother is in assisted living now at
Yes, ma'am.
over 100 years old, and
Wow.
Tiara,
Amazing.
you have the experience on the other side. So Tiara, tell us what you do, and who you work for, if you'd like to like to mention that.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to say thank you all for having me and thank you for the great introduction, Aria. I appreciate it. So, my name is Tiarra Jackson-Wright, and I am a sales and marketing director in the Baltimore area in Pikesville. The company that I work for is Elegance Living, and the name of our community is called Woodholme Gardens. So, in particular, my job is to ease my clients and my families in transitioning from home into a senior living community. And I do that as best as I can in being the assertive advisor, so to speak. So any type of questions, any fears, any concerns, I ease it as best as possible.
Okay, so let's do a little role playing. Let's do a little
Okay.
role playing. Aria, I mean, because this is a real life situation for you. Now, Aria, by the way, for our viewers, is in Ohio. Tiara and I both are in the Maryland, Baltimore
Mhm.
area. And for those who are just tuning in, welcome. This is the Chicken Box, powered by the Afro. So here's a role play. So Aria, let me set up this scenario for us, for you
Yes.
and Tiara to have this conversation. So your grandmother's 100 years old, and I think she's close. She's a little bit over 100, but she's 100 years old. living at home with you and your family, your mom or dad and your family, and there are discussions in your home about the need to move her to an assisted living place. Okay, you
Mhm.
got that. That's your role. Now you are going. You're the scout. You're the scout,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you're going to. Did you say Woodholme Garden, Tiara?
Yes.
Yeah. You're going. You've been to a couple of places, but now you're
Mhm.
going to Woodholme Garden because you're the scout and you're trying to figure this out for your grandmother. And the first person you meet is Tiara. All right, y'all tell me how this conversation goes.
Okay, I love this simulation. Hi, I'm Ari, and I'm currently scouting some assisted living homes for my 103-year-old great grandmother. I'm looking for somewhere that can provide her the care that she is in need of. She is pretty self sufficient, but she does have vision and audio hearing issues. Additionally, she is very cognitive, so please do not treat her as though she doesn't know what's going on. Thirdly, she enjoys eating, so a facility that has delicious food is important. And fourthly, and lastly, most importantly as well, engage her. She is not the average 103-year-old. She is very aware of what's going on. She went and voted in the last election. As far as I know, she has plans to vote in this one. And I
All
need
right.
somewhere that's going to engage her properly.
All right. Well, Aria, thank you so much for dropping by. We're so happy to have you here. And I would just want to say, just based off of how you are describing your great grandmother, she would fit in perfectly with us here at Woodholme Gardens and with the rest of our residents. And she will be in good company because we have a little lady here who's 102 years old and she doesn't skip a beat. So they will fit in perfectly together and will probably be best buddies. So um, we are known for having weekly field trips. We engage our residents. We ask them what it is that they would like to do. Pretty soon, we're planning a field trip to the casino because that's where they would like to go. Um, Also, food is very, very important. And here we have, of course, 3 square meals a day with snacks in between. We have happy hour every Friday. And yes, drinks are included if they so choose. We have entertainment. And the number one important thing that I really love about our community is everyone is treated with dignity and respect. So we are called an assisted living for reasons because we are here to assist and not treat anyone as if they are not still human or still have life to live.
Those are great answers. All right, but I can see you have a couple other questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not entirely. I really love what you had to say because I've, in a very literal sense,
Mhm.
she was at a place like that. Like you said, it's stimulating them, the field trips, the happy hour, which I thought was very funny because they would bring in big band jazz because that's the music of
Yes,
their generation that they enjoyed. And she'd have a
absolutely.
glass of red wine. And I think that, um, like you said, stimulating these people is important. I think
Mhm.
stimulating anybody is important. Just like you don't want your children at a daycare that is going to
Right.
kind of sit them in a corner in front of a TV, and you don't want a job where you feel like you're just doing nothing all day. Like I'm sure these people who are living in these homes for whatever reason, because I'm sure there's plenty of them as to why they get placed there. They don't want to just be left behind. So to know that you guys do cool stuff like that, especially hit the slots, um,
Yes.
super, that is super wonderful. I love to hear what you guys are up to.
All
Thank
right.
you.
But I have a question. I'm Aria's great aunt. I'm going along for the for the
All
interview.
right.
I heard assisted living just costs so much. I mean, how do people afford to do assisted living? How does the financial piece work?
So that's a great question. And a lot of it has to do with preparing early. So we hear a lot, especially, when we get our first major job, whether it's out of college or, that great 9 to 5 or whatever hours everyone is working. The first thing that comes to mind is, okay, start with your 401k. So me turning, and I don't mind saying my age, I'll be 40 this year. So from me being in my early 20s until now, I'm starting to really, really recognize how important it is to save, and to be in a position, first and foremost, to be able to save. Because, as we know, with today's economy, it's expensive to just live, period. So not only are we trying to navigate living for now, but we also have to navigate living for later in our golden years. So a 401k is very important, having savings. And also, I'm seeing a lot of families invest in long-term care insurance. They start off when they first, start working and start, kind of climbing that corporate ladder, and they initiate those policies, and it builds over time and builds interest. And so now they have a lot invested in those policies, and they're able to pull from those policies to pay for their care. Other than that, we have a lot of families who just pull together, and everyone kind of divide up the cost and put in, and that's how they cover the cost.
Okay, then it sounds like it's a pretty substantial cost. So
It is.
suppose a person didn't save and they don't have family, but they have property.
Yes. So I see a lot of families who sell the properties because they're trying to transition them from home into our community, or a community in particular. So the sale of a home definitely provides financial ease.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
say you didn't sell the home quite. Maybe it was somebody who, like you said, you didn't save. There's not a home to sell, but they are qualifying for Medicaid or Medicare, excuse me. What does that look like for people like that? Additionally, what do these kinds of communities look like, or are they even options for our veterans?
So there are options for veterans. We have a program called Patriot Angels where they'll help you navigate that process if you are a veteran. So there are definitely options for veterans. However, our community in particular is private pay only, unfortunately. So there are programs through the Department of Aging, which is an excellent resource, where they have an assisted living subsidy that will help those who are in need of housing and need assisted living, and will pay it directly. But there's certain communities that qualify for that program. So unfortunately, that's not us, but there are other programs out there that's helpful. And so when I do encounter those families who are in dire need of help but can't afford the cost of living at my community in particular, I do direct them with other resources that I've found along the way, because I don't want to leave anyone hanging. I want to help I want to help everyone. So I just try to direct them as best as possible.
Well, that's good to know. Listen, if you're watching this broadcast, we're with Tiarra Jackson-Wright. She's a sales and marketing senior level person. I don't know what the exact title is, but she's the person in
You're
charge
almost there.
of, at Woodholme assisted living facility.
Yes.
She's the person that helps people to make that transition into assisted living. If you're watching the Chicken Box today, would you put your name and where you're watching from? And of course, if you have a question, we'd love, love, love to answer your question. Tiarra, sometimes people get confused between assisted living
Mhm.
and nursing home care. Can you help us make that distinction? Who qualifies, not financially, but who's most eligible for assisted living versus nursing care? Are they the same? Are they different? How does that work?
Well, there's definitely a difference. Nursing homes are regulated. So they're usually regulated by Medicare and Medicaid. And so those who are in a nursing home need what we call total care. So it's levels of care that we at an assisted living level cannot provide. So keep in mind, assisted living is not a nursing home, right? So assisted living, we're there to assist as best as possible, and we're still giving those residents their dignity, and just giving them a sense of, okay, I'm still in control in a sense, but I just need a little help along the way. With nursing homes, it's more of, you need help from head to toe, from start to finish of the day. And like I was saying before, it's a little bit more regulated as well.
Okay. All righty.
So,
Aria.
Yes, ma'am. So to piggyback off your question, I actually was going to ask the exact same thing, but now that you've explained the difference, I did want to know, is there room for, I guess, like different wings within assisted living homes? And I say that meaning, like you said, you're there to assist as best as possible
Right.
with a simulation, right? Or another situation. Say one of the residents unfortunately hurts themselves and they
Mhm.
now need more care than you guys are used to typically providing. Are there sectors of places like your own assisted living homes where they can go and get that additional care that they need on a temporary basis and then be placed back into kind of their regular room, or, reacclimated back into the regular
Mhm.
living environment? Or is it kind of like they would have to go to a nursing home and then come back once they're better? Because I'm sure that's hard for them. They're
Right.
used to living there. They took a tumble. They now need this additional care, but being uprooted from one place into another for a temporary amount of time could be fairly stressful, I imagine.
Absolutely. So I'll say absolutely, but also it just kind of it's determined on a case by case basis, right? So I'll give you an example. We had one of our residents um who had a pet, a dog, and the dog was starting to become a little bit too much for her to handle. And so the dog wrapped around her walker and she took a hard tumble and ended up having to have hip surgery. And so she was away from us for at least about 2 going on to 3 months. She had to have a hip replacement, and had to recover, of course. But she was able to come back. The surgery was a success, and she came back and was like she never left. So there are instances when that can happen, but our goal is to make sure that those persons receive the care that's necessary. So that might mean that they're away from us for a little bit, but we definitely check in. We make sure that they're okay. My role as the sales and marketing director, anytime any of our residents have to go out to the hospital for a long period of time, I go out and I visit. I check on things. I make sure that they're okay. I see what it is that I can bring along with me to kind of put a smile on their face and, just kind of let them know like, hey, we're still here and you still matter. You're still a part of our family. So other than that, I would say, yeah, if it's a situation of that nature, then we just kind of send them out to the hospital. And then even if they aren't able to recover properly, then of course we would have to have the hard conversation of with the family of transitioning them into a nursing home if possible.
Mhm. You said something so key. And again, hello to those who are watching. This is the Chicken Box, powered by the 132-year-old Afro. Support us on afro.com. But you said something so key about if a person is injured or needs additional assistance, that you go out and visit them.
Absolutely.
Talk us a little bit about the importance of camaraderie, of relationships, whether or not it's you within the facility or people's families. I mean, assisted living is not a place, right, where we just park our loved ones and walk
Mhm.
away. Can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of what you've seen?
So, actually, before I was the sales and marketing director, I was the concierge. So I worked the front desk. And that's like the main hub. So the phone's ringing, you have folks coming in, you have folks who need a job and they're asking questions. So it's a lot of moving parts. But that's where I started off before I was promoted to sales and marketing director. So during that time, I had the opportunity to really cultivate and develop many relationships with all of our family members, vendors, the mail lady, just any and everyone who frequent our community. And so by me building those relationships, it trickled down to the residents. So I built up a great relationship with our residents as well. And with building up those relationships, you build a level of trust. So a lot of times when our family members were kind of in distress or something was going on and they need help, if they heard my voice or heard my name on the other end of the phone, they were at ease because they knew I was going to do whatever I can do to kind of rectify the situation or, make something better or connect the dots and, just make it happen. So I carried that from the concierge role into the sales and marketing role, and that the family members know that I'm still here, even though my roles changed. I'm still here to help and assist. And if anyone goes out to the hospital, if anything happens, they know I'm going out to visit. I'm bringing flowers. I'm bringing chocolate, or whatever, just to put a smile on their face and make sure that they're at ease as well.
Well, that's great from that lens. Those of you who are team members who work for Woodholme.
Mhm.
Aria, maybe I'll switch that question to you. How important it is for your great grandmother, not just for the staff to be attentive, but
Right.
for you guys to show up and be attentive. Does she look for you?
Oh, when I tell you, Dr. Draper, she calls several times a day, every day. So there's a tier. And it's so funny because the nurses or the aides will kind of tease us. First, it's my mother, and then it's my father, and then it's me. And so it's, are you Jada? Which is my mother. I'm not Jada. I'm Aria. Oh, she had me call you too. I know you did. I was in the middle of an interview. I was working. And so we go see her. If there's 7 days in a week, I would say we probably go see her 4 of them. Always prioritizing Sunday, of course, to bring her dinner and also just to kind of touch base with her. Other days, like I said, we went yesterday on a Wednesday. My mom had went on Monday, and then specifically my dad went on Friday. So we go see her a lot. If nothing else, we're always calling her. Hey, just wanted to check in with you. I saw that you called me, so I'm returning your call. Us being there is extremely important. Just for like the sentiment that Tiarra was sharing, to be aware of what's going on, right? Just as much as I want them to engage her, we also have to. I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, it's not, well, people who might have the wrong mindset, like, it's not my responsibility anymore. And it's like, it absolutely is. Like, whether you be their POA, that being their power of attorney, and or you're just their family member, like you being there for them during this time, whether it's temporary or long-term or whatever else, is equally as important. And I appreciate you asking that, Dr. Draper, because I actually had a question for Tiarra that kind of piggybacks off of that a little bit. You were talking about, the comfort that a lot of families feel knowing that although you're not the concierge anymore, you are definitely still very present at your job. And, when you answer the phone or when they're like, oh, she's taking care of it, cool, I'm at ease. We as Black people have a lot of apprehension in regards to the healthcare field, and rightfully so. We've been through a lot of times, our healthcare needs are ignored, especially women. There's been past instances where, we've been experimented on and we're like, there's just a lot of stigma around Black people trusting the healthcare system.
Right.
What does that look like from an assisted living standpoint? So as you are trying to comfort these people and assure them, hey, your loved one is coming into a facility that's going to care about them. This is best for them at this particular phase of life because you don't have the means to help take care of them. What has been some of the pushback that you've gotten, and how have you resolved those issues?
That's a great question. So I would say the pushback oftentimes has nothing to do with us, right? Quite a few times it has everything to do with the family members, because it may be, for example, something as simple as, oh, you got to make sure mom's dentures are in at, before she goes to meals, right? And so, of course, we're not going to like push back on that because that's important. And we know that. But, if it makes you feel at ease and makes you feel more comfortable, we'll call you if that's what you would like for us to do, to say, hey, we just wanted to let you know that mom has her dentures in and she ate 95% of her breakfast today. She ate her lunch today. She's happy. She's doing activities today and she's doing all right. But a lot of times that it's guilt from families because they feel guilty for putting their family members in an assisted living or home anyway. And so, we try to kind of ease them as best as possible because, even though you might or they might feel that guilt, we just got to like assure them that they're in great hands and it's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for explaining that. I get that, especially like you said, the families have their own apprehensions because of whatever they got going on. And then I know sometimes people going into the homes can be a little begrudgingly, can do so begrudgingly. So
Yeah.
But you just got to understand the situation. A lot of times I put myself in their shoes, right? Because, we all have families. We all have loved ones who've gotten to a phase in life where it's like, okay, we got to figure out what's next because Uncle so-and-so needs help or Aunt so-and-so needs help, right? And so, I just put myself in their shoes. Like, how would I feel if, mom was fine last week, but then over the weekend she had a fall and now she can't walk and she can't, go back home because she can't climb the steps anymore. And now we have to figure out what to do because the hospital is about to discharge her Tuesday and it's Sunday and we got to figure out what to do. And so, I just put myself in the shoes of the families and just try to, they might kind of come at me a little strong or, might have a little attitude, which is understandable. And I don't take it personally. I just understand the situation. So,
yeah, I don't want to talk about that too. What are some of the triggers? Hi, Jewel. Good afternoon to you. Jewel Johnson is one of our faithful chicken
awesome.
watchers since its inception. And hello to everybody else who is watching. This is the Chicken Box, and it's not just the three of us chatting. Feel free to put a question or a comment in the chat, no matter what platform you're on. So you raised something really good, Tiarra, and I want to ask Ari, both of you, to answer this. What are some of the triggers? What says to a family, it's time for you to consider, as a family, it's time for your loved one to consider an alternative living arrangement other than the one that they are currently in? I mean, what kind of triggers? What do people look for? And either of you can jump in, because I know, Ari, you said your great grandmother is in assisted living. Doesn't sound like she's been there a real long time. Tiarra, you deal with this probably every day.
Yes.
But, it's like with the dentist, what pushes you to the dentist office, right?
Right. Pain.
Yes,
I don't wish
that cavity. Your teeth can fall. If it doesn't hurt you, you're not going. But when you get to that pain point,
right,
you tell them you'll take any appointment they have and pay whatever they say. So
absolutely.
what are the triggers for assisted living?
Okay, so great question. So something our family should definitely pay attention to. If mom, for example, used to be a social butterfly, she would go to church every Sunday. She is a part of the parish council and bakes all the cakes for the bake sale and goes to all of the field trips to the casino and everywhere else. And then all of a sudden you see a drastic change. And usually that happens as a result of maybe a significant other passing away. So maybe her husband might have passed away or, another family member. And then all of a sudden you see that withdrawal where, mom stopped going to church or mom stopped participating in the bake sales and baking. Or I'll give you a prime example. My grandmother was the matriarch of our family. And, she raised multiple generations in one house, including myself. And all of a sudden we started noticing little things where she was putting like tin cans in the oven, but forgetting that they were there. Cause you know how we use the oven for storage in the drawer and everything, right? So she would put stuff in the oven, but forget about it. And then turn the oven on, and then we're like, what is that smell? And then we run into the oven and she has a bunch of tin cans in the oven. So that was something that I noticed with my grandmother, and was like, what's going on? And it just seemed like it just kind of came all of a sudden, And so you want to look for examples of that sort, as well as maybe not eating properly or not eating at all. If you say, hey mom, when was the last time you eat breakfast? What did you eat for breakfast? Oh, I don't think I didn't eat breakfast today. And you look at the time and it's 3:00, right? Another example is not bathing. You go to visit and she's not pulled together. Like her hair is kind of disheveled, or you might smell like a little body odor. And then, we all remember our mothers, for example. Like I know my mom is always put together. So if I were to notice that with her, I would say, I need to, dig a little deeper. I need to visit a little bit more often, and I need to see what's going on. So,
got it. Thank you. How about you, Aria? What was the trigger for your great grandmother?
My
She
family.
might be watching, so be careful, Aria.
Okay.
Like she's on point.
When I tell you she is so locked in, it's not even funny. But my family's realization was actually with me moving to college. For a long time, it was me, both of my parents, and my great grandmother living together. And so I was responsible for helping her get to her appointments, cooking for her, things of that sort. And with me having been gone, my parents were like, this is a lot for us. And so they had told her like, hey, like, we don't know if it was less about her and more about them not having the capacity to provide her the care that she needed. So she was in an assisted living home up until, or actually one very similar to where you work at, Tiarra, like I said, very stimulating and stuff like that. She was in an assisted living home up until January of 2023. She then lived with us for a few months, and we realized that we absolutely needed to put her back in a different kind of facility because she had just declined a little bit in regards to things. So like I said, she has vision issues. That's always been the case. Perfectly fine. We know how to deal with that. But then it became the need for her to use the restroom a lot more. Because she couldn't see. And like I said, it's been that way for a long time, but now her hearing was starting to leave for a little bit as well. She oftentimes thought she was alone. We're sitting right next to her, but she doesn't know it. And so she got scared of a lot of things, of being by herself. And at the time, me and both of my parents were working from home. And so we were able to get nothing done. She always had to use the restroom, or she was afraid, or kind of like, it was when we noticed, and this is something I've always heard about, when you notice, your elders beginning to regress into kind of like children-like behavior or childlike behavior, that's a sign of something. And so that clinginess and like being extremely particular about what she is and isn't willing to eat. And like I said, just that constant, I need you here. And it's like, you don't need me here. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm not leaving you anyway, but like the physical wanting to hold my hand or come to the bathroom with me, that kind of thing, that was a sign that like, okay, like we don't, once again, an indicator for us that we don't have the means to provide her with what she needs. But furthermore, it might be time for her to transition back into a different home so that she can get that care that she needs from both a physical and a medical perspective, and also just attentiveness.
So that brings us, maybe this is the last question. Thank you, Ari, for that. But both of you all can answer this. How do you have to convince a loved one to do that? How does that work? How do you get people to move from where they've been and probably comfortable, and maybe not realizing, like Aria said, that anything's wrong, because Aria, you're there, right? So that's right. Ring the bell on you. How do you, Tiarra, talk to me a little bit, and then Aria too. How do you get people to actually go along with that plan?
Yes, it's definitely difficult, and I've seen it both ways. So I definitely, I suggest all families have this conversation with their loved ones, and I suggest having it now more so than where you get to a point where you have no other choice. And then there's a lot of resentment. And then you have, once they come to us, it's a very unhappy resident because they're there. So something that we use a tool called 5 Ways to Emotionally Support Your Parent. And it's just basically easing families into having those conversations with them.
Say that again. And tell us whether or not that tool is available online or anything.
Absolutely. It's available on our website. Yes. So our website is www.woodholmegardens.com.
Okay.
And so it's a plethora of different resources. And of course, you can always pick up the phone and call me. I'm a resource as well. So.
Okay. So it's we're gonna put that up. Okay. Yes. How about you, Aria? How did that conversation go? And then I see Bonnie Dean's comment. Family-based caregivers can have huge emotional guilt trip too.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
The first time we had the conversation, they decided to wait until winter break when I came home for Christmas to have it, which I didn't appreciate because I felt like, oh, okay, I have to deal with the awkwardness of this.
Mhm.
But she had a lot of apprehension. She was kind of kicking and screaming. The convincing factor was one of her best friends, Miss Pearl, was going to be living across the hall from her, and so, oh, okay, well, Pearl's going to be there. I guess I'll go.
Mhm.
The second, it was like an incentive, like, oh my gosh, like I get to live with my best friend. Of course I'll go. And then the second time around, like I said, after transitioning her home and then transitioning her into another place, it was just having to kind of like explicitly explain, like, we are working people. She'll kid with us and be like, oh, y'all working folks, y'all are always working. We're like, literally, grand, we are though. And so explaining to her, like, yes, Aria is back home, but Aria is now working. And of course, with her being 103, work from home is not a concept that she understands. Get remote work. She's like, you're in the house. Like, what do you mean you just sitting here? And I'm like, no, like I'm doing stuff, I promise.
I
And
mean,
so
your great grandmother, see what you're doing, girl. Go ahead.
she's keeping tabs. She's the best supervisor you ever gonna get. But I had to like explain that to her, like, no, like, grand, we're working. And so amidst getting her to explain, like, hey, you're in a lot more, and you're in need of a lot more care than you initially were, and we're not able to provide that. And like you said, she has a different perspective than us. She's like, I think you're doing just fine. And we're like, but you don't know, you're driving us a little insane. um Having to be very real with her, all the while very tender, and explain to her, like, this is not a reflection of our love. We love you so much that if we could, we build an additional wing onto the house, entire staff to take care of you, but we can't. So for
Mhm.
the time being, we want this for you. We want you to be happy, and well taken care of and stimulated in the way that you deserve. And so we have to do this. And once again, she kind of kicked and screamed a little bit, but she's 100. At the time, she was 102, and I think she's like 94 pounds. So she wasn't really finna kick and scream at nobody. She just got in the car. She went. But it was very hard. And sometimes it's even hard, like, leaving her, because I know that she'd rather come home with us. There's instances like Easter or Christmas when we bring her home, and she's like, well, can I sleep here tonight? And it's kind of like, oh, like, baby, I really wish you could, but technically you got a curfew and we got to get you back. So
Mhm.
it's stuff like that that makes it difficult, and that made it difficult to move her in there. But for us, it's always being mindful of what does she need and what can we give her.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's a good point. And
Yeah.
as one of our viewers said in a comment, we have a big guilt trip as well ourselves emotionally
Yes.
when loved ones say, like your grandmother almost says, well, great grandmother, well, don't you love me anymore? Don't you want me here? And those kinds of things. And
Mhm.
so assisted living can help. And so, Tiarra, it sounds like you do quite a bit of family, I'm gonna put it in quotes, family counseling
Yes.
of the equation. But before Tiarra tells us about her counseling and how she works with families, I just want to say to everybody who is watching, you may have jumped on in the middle of this and said, what in the world are they talking about? This is the Chicken Box, powered by the 132-year-old Afro. Go to afro.com. And we're having a discussion today with Tiarra Jackson-Wright, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing, I think I have it right this time, for Woodholme Assisted Living in Maryland. And she is an expert in this field, having been concierge before she got this promotion, works with a whole lot of families as well as residents. And my co-host today is Aria Brent. And so we're getting ready to wrap up and jump on the box in just a couple of minutes. But Tiarra, tell us a little bit about how you balance that with families who are feeling a little bit guilty about,
Mhm.
because Aria said it from the beginning, especially in the Black community,
Yes.
we are taught that everybody stays in the home,
Mhm.
right? Multiple generations, like you said, Tiarra, you have multiple generations. That's our norm. That's not our exception.
Right.
So
Very true.
tell us a little bit about that conversation with family members who are feeling a little guilty about the assisted living route.
Transition. So I want to first say, Arya, I think you and your family did an excellent job having that conversation with your grandma. It coincides perfectly with the tool that I was just telling you all about a few minutes ago about navigating that conversation. So
And what's the name of that tool again?
it's called 5 Ways to Emotionally Support Your Parent.
Okay, 5 ways to emotionally support your parent. Okay.
So it says, and I'm summarizing, paraphrasing, here are 5 important ways you can respond to how your parent is feeling and maintain a healthy relationship. So you want to make sure that you're actively listening, taking their concerns seriously, and being an advocate for them. Continuous and clear dialogue. So sometimes it doesn't happen in one evening. Sometimes it happens over the course of 2 evenings or 3 weeks. And for a couple of our clients, it took about 6 months. So it's just consistently like reassuring them and having that conversation, but also just really listening to their needs and their wants. Of course, we want to be respectful. They are our loved ones, they are our elders. So we also want to be respectful, make sure they feel valued, acknowledged, and recognized. They could be facing frustrating physical and mental challenges, so we strive to be patient and compassionate. And I think that's very important. We want to offer help. So no one wants to feel like a burden, which I see that oftentimes for some of our residents. No, I'll take care of it. But no, that I'm here to assist. But even in assisted living, we still want to make them feel like they're still in control. And so even though they're not cooking like they used to for their families, or they're not doing their laundry, or they're not cleaning up their apartments.
Wait a minute, I'm on my way, but go ahead.
Oh.
Laundry. Okay. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
We still want to make sure that they have some type of control. So, they may still feel like, oh, no, I can make my bed. Okay, you go on ahead and make your bed. But then when they go to lunch, especially if it's a soiled bed, we'll wait till they go to lunch and then go in their room and just, take the sheets up and make sure that it's nice and presentable. We also want to make sure that we're helping them feel in control. As I said before, older adults highly value a sense of independence and autonomy. Avoid pointing out age-related difficulties, as it can make them feel defensive. So instead of dictating what they should do, we'll offer choices. They always have a choice, and they always have rights. And then finally, we just want to make sure we are remaining positive, a positive mindset, and encourage them to participate in activities that bring them joy. So that's why we have a plethora of different activities and field trips and things to do to keep them engaged and make them feel like they did make the best decision possible by coming not only to our community, but a community, period.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for those 5. So 5 ways to emotionally support your parent. Sounds like that's a resource to have, even if they're not coming into.
Absolutely.
You're blessed. And I see this comment here from one of our viewers, and we do thank everyone who's tuned in to the Chicken Box on this afternoon, or maybe morning where you are. It's afternoon or morning someplace. And so sometimes our young people don't understand. And a perfect example, you said your family structure was your great-grandmom, your parents, and you.
Yes.
So what helped you to understand what was going on with your grandmother even before she went to assisted living?
I think that throughout my adolescence specifically, because to be a little more specific with how that timeline looked, up until about 12, she had lived by herself in like an apartment. And then she lived with us, and we got a new house when I was like 14. And that's when it became just she, my parents, and I.
Okay.
And that was really difficult for me because I'm in a time in my life where I'm like, I want to be a teenager. Like, I want to kind of live my life how I want to, marching to the beat of my own drum, all the while respecting my parents' wishes. And then I have somebody else's wishes who are in mind as well. So she has an opinion or something to say. One of the funniest things that I tell people is I remember she kept asking me, did I have a prom date? And I told her no. And like she kept asking, and she couldn't wrap her mind around the idea of me going by myself. And so it was like me having to kind of gently let her down, or like tell her like, grand people don't do that anymore. Like you can still be perfectly validated as a young woman without a date to a dance. Like it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I promise you, there's nothing I have to tell you. If there is, I still wouldn't tell you because you're 96 years old. But it was just, like I said, trying to be mindful of how things were in her time, which I think I'm actually very grateful for now because it's given me a better chance or a better chance to get the perspective of older people. This is what this was like for you. You've known nothing but this. You might have lived through all of this. That don't mean you understand all of it. Another example, she didn't understand when I wear my hair the way I wear it now. First time I went and got my afro, you don't want to get your hair so pressed? I was like, no, like I was in my Afrocentric wave. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, a silk press, huh? And I was like, for her, that was a representation of beauty. She lived through the 70s and the 60s to see the Black Power movement happen the first go around. By that point, she was 40 something. She was wearing her hair the way she was wearing her hair. She wasn't worried about what the young folks was doing. And so, like Ms. Bonnie had said, understanding what was considered hurtful to her or what she thought was respectful or the standard of beauty, I had to kind of liberate myself and give myself a sense of independence, but also be like, okay, for grand's sake, I'll wear stockings to church. I'll put on a slip, which till this day drives me insane.
I remember slips, yes.
What is it like? And even we got the chance to kind of, I guess, rediscover womanhood together, if you would, because I really like makeup. My entire life, my great grandmother has never worn makeup. And she, I think, is 79 years older than me precisely. And so it was like, when I got to do makeup, I started doing hers and I saw her feel beautiful. And I saw her, be receptive to putting on certain jewelries and perfumes and stuff. I would get them for her. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like I kind of get to see you being like, do your thing again, as I'm discovering it being my thing. So it was hard. It was very difficult trying to be literally like a 17-year-old, I think, living with like a 98-year-old. Like I said, I think we're like 79 years apart. And so, yeah, it's very weird, but we figured it out.
And I think you might be the exception and not the rule.
Oh yes, absolutely. We kid around about it, but as much as I was like, y'all don't like, I used to complain and be like, y'all don't understand how much Grand is stressing me. I've now come to find she was stressing me because of how much she loves me. Like I was there with her. Her only great granddaughter that like is in state that she's able to constantly talk to. And of course she has my mother. But having that young person in her life as a young woman, I am very special to her. She always asks somebody, well, how's my girl doing? When she called my dad or something, she's fine. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like she's very special to you as
well. Absolutely. Great. I don't play about her at all whatsoever.
Grandparents, especially a blessing.
Yeah, great grandparents at that. So we're winding up our discussion today, and it's the time that we're going to jump on the box. And so, Tiarra, what happens when we jump on the box is you can spend, 2-3 minutes talking about anything you want to talk about. Really, if you want to talk about what we've been talking about, feel free to talk about that. If you want to talk about something else, it's uninterrupted. You are on the box. If Impeccable was here, he would say one thing when he got on the box: make sure you hug a senior today. Let them know, or call them up. Do not text them. He would say, depends on the senior, but don't text them. Call them up. Go to visit them. Let them know that you love them. And so I'm going to jump on the box. Again, I'm Frances Tony Draper, CEO of the Afro. Thank you, Tiarra, so much for joining us on today. I'm going to ask all of our viewers to follow us on social media, like us on social media, share on social media, take out a subscription on afro.com. And if you would love to be a guest on Chicken Box, just like Tiarra, you can text Afro to 410-936-5002. I think you can text to say you want to be on Chicken Box, but I know you can do an email as well, subs, SUBS @afro.com, subs@afro.com. There it is. We'd love to have you as a guest. And I think, Tiarra, you may have let us know about Woodholme and we invited you to be a guest. So that worked perfectly. As I'm on the box to say to our guests, thank you, to Aria, our co-host, thank you so much. And to say how important I think it is that people understand about assisted living, understand about when it's the right time. And I love our guest's answer. Talk about it while people are young. It's like estate planning. It's like insurance. It's like retirement. Don't wait until you get to the retirement age to talk about retirement. And don't wait until you're sick to talk about your estate. Talk about it now. When you're in, as they say in the church, you have a reasonable portion of your health and strength, and you can really make those decisions now for what you would like to happen later. Even if life doesn't go that way, at least you've thought about it and talked about it. Not that you don't have a say so when you're older, but it's like when your leg is broken, you don't care anything about what else is going on. You're right. You want the orthopedic surgeon or somebody to put your leg in a cast. But before it's broken, right, before you do something that might break it, you may think about the dangers of jumping off the top of the mountain or whatever it is that you're doing. So give some forethought to it. Write your wishes down. So I know in Maryland, we also have a document called 5 Wishes. And your 5 wishes talks about what Aria talked about, your power of attorney, your medical power of attorney. By the way, we'll have to have another chicken box on this. Power of attorney.
Absolutely.
And when people die. I can't tell you how many people tell me somebody died and I got their power of attorney. Well, you might have had it while they were living. When they died, the power of attorney ends. You got to do something else called a will. But anyway, that's another whole discussion. But, pay attention to your loved ones, their cognitive all of us have cognitive deficiencies, by the way, y'all. All of us are using more of our ability to remember things. All the codes we're trying to remember, all the passcodes. Even when we put them in the thing that's supposed to help us remember them, we don't remember the username to trigger the passcode, right? So a lot of data, a lot of information. But before we get to that point, let's have a discussion and let's be supportive of our loved ones. And I say, let's treat our older loved ones the way we want somebody to treat us, because unless God calls us home at a young age, we're all going to be there at one time or the other. And so I'm off the box. Aria, you're on the box, and we'll give Tiarra the last word.
Yes, ma'am. Well said, Dr. Draper. I completely agree, especially because I struggle to remember stuff. But I think that to wrap up today's conversation, it is extremely important to love your elders, to respect your elders, even if they're not elders, say they're just in need of it because of an injury or something like that. Love and respect these people. Be mindful of what it is that they want. Make sure that their voices are heard, but also love and respect yourself. Sometimes guilt is very strong, and you feel like, well, how could I do this to them? Either you do it to them or you continue to suffer. And sometimes that suffrage may end up, they might be the older one, but it may lead you to an early death, depending on how stressful it is for you. And you deserve to have a beautiful and fulfilling life, just as they might have, depending on how old they are. So I think that finding a happy balance of, hey, I want you to be taken care of, but I don't have the means to. Here's our next option. Like you said, using those resources we've been given, those 5 ways to emotionally support your parents, or whomever it is, it might be to you. And reassuring them this is less about you being a burden and more about you are in need of a series of care or attention that I can't give you. A lot of times when people break up, I'm about to say from today's conversation, I've taken away a lot of times when people break up, it's not you, it's me. Maybe take that mindset and say, it's not you, it's me. I can't handle this amazing and wonderfully grand responsibility of taking care of you. So I'm putting you somewhere where you'll be happy. And like I said, also don't treat it like it's a chore or as though they're a pet. Please prioritize seeing them, visiting them, engaging with them in the things that they even have going on at their assisted living home. I know that you said you guys have happy hour. My parents used to go and sit with my grandmother at happy hour, have a glass of wine with her. I think making them feel like you're still there. Because you are. But being involved in their life outside of what you have always known and even engaging with them furthermore while in these assisted living homes is super duper important. So yeah, love your people, respect your people, but make sure that you don't drive yourself crazy trying to maintain your people.
Hey, all right. Tiarra, thank you, Aria.
All right. Well, Dr. Draper and Aria, thank you so much for having me on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed engaging with you ladies and having this conversation because it's a very important conversation to have. So in closing, I just want to talk a little bit about Woodholme Gardens. We believe together is better, and that optimal well-being is achieved through a thoughtfully designed environment filled with good neighbors and a caring staff, along with nutritious food, accessible exercise programs, and opportunities to connect and engage every day. Are the right combination for optimal living. So, um, to close again, I would just say, have those conversations with your loved ones. Start now and start getting their affairs in order as well as your own, so that when the time comes, you're in a position of being proactive instead of being reactive. Thank you so much, ladies.
You're welcome. And everybody's time is coming. Let the Lord come back first, right?
All right.
And still you then you won't need any assistance living. Happy birthday to the Afro for 132 years of all
right.
If you are watching this broadcast, share it. If you missed part of it, go back and watch it. Such great, great, great information. I've already said hug a senior. I've already said read our content on afro.com. And also let us know if you have content you want us to consider, or you want to be a guest on Chicken Box. Just email subs@afro.com. So until next time, I'm Frances Tony Draper. On behalf of the Afro, we are so glad that you joined us on the day. Shout out to our producer, Dana. Shout out to our other two co-hosts, Impeccable and Jay. They'll be back, I'm sure, next week or next time. And bless you. We're glad that you joined us on today. Take care.